and being with us. And we ask that you be with us this evening. Guide us with our decisions that come before us. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion for the acceptance of the agenda?
Make a motion. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Do we have any comments from staff?
We do, Mr. Chair, but we also have the approval of the minutes from May 9th and May 23rd on the agenda as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes for May 9th and May 23rd?
Make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mr. Risher. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just want to state that we've got 3 cases that have been postponed and will not be heard tonight. 2 of these cases are on one property located east of Highway 1941 and west of Old Highway 3 and Old Griffin Road. These are cases RZ 1906 and COMP AM 1902. The 3rd case, which will not be heard tonight, is RZ 1908. Jones Drive, Henry 80 Properties LLC of Stockbridge, requesting a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to R2S, which is single-family residential on sewer, for property located at 580 Jones Drive in land lot 52 of the 7th. And this property consists of 91.45 acres, requesting a single-family residential subdivision on sewer. And also, Mr. Chair, I want to take this opportunity to state how very pleased we are to have a new planner. And so Darely Navarro is with us tonight, and she's our brand new planner 1. She's coming to us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we are just so very happy to have her in planning and zoning.
Okay, thank you very much. We're glad to have you. Okay, any additional comments? If not, I'd like to call the first case, please.
Rezoning RZ 1907, Robert Bone of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residential for property located at 469 Mount Bethel Road in land lots 108 and 117 of the 8th District. The property consists of 31.0 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision in District 3. And the report is presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair and board members.
Good evening.
This rezoning request is for a property located at 469 Mount Bethel Road, along with 2 parcels to the right and 1 parcel to the rear corner of 469 Mount Bethel Road. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA to R2 for a development of 29 lots. The subject property does not have access to sewer, so residents will have their own septic system. The proposed development is in compliance with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map. The future land use designation of rural residential, which allows up to 1 dwelling unit per acre net. And the proposed development will have a net density of 1. Staff recommends approval of the request with 5 conditions. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff? Okay. No questions. We'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Palmer. I live at 1611 Avery Drive, Locust Grove, Georgia. And I'm representing Mr. Robert Bowen, the landowner and the homeowner in this case tonight.
Do you have anything additional you'd like to add to staff recommendation?
Sure. I wanted to put this back up if I could. It's okay, you can put that up. I know everybody, when they see the zoning sign go up, everybody gets nervous. Everybody gets worried what's coming in next door to me. Especially in today's day and age, there's a lot of hype about zonings and land use. But I did want to point out this property is a very small community. It's 29 units on 31 acres. We meet all the requirements of the Henry County Land Use Plan. We meet all the requirements of the Henry County Zoning Ordinance. We've worked with staff, and we certainly do appreciate the report. We appreciate the recommendation of approval, and we don't have any issues with the zoning conditions as proposed. I did want to point out a couple other small things. The community has varying lot sizes. Some of the lots are very large, over 2.5 acres. Some of them are 30,000 square feet, which is the same as the surrounding subdivisions in that area. And Mr. Bowen is still going to live on this property. He still has his house. He's still going to live there. And so that being said, he wants it to be a very nice community. So the homes will be averaging about 2,400 square feet on the minimum lot sizes, and be starting in the high 200s, the low 300s will be where the homes will start in price point. So again, this is not going to be a standard subdivision. It's going to be a very nice subdivision, a very quaint subdivision, and we're looking forward to this being added to the community. If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Okay, Mr. Ritchie, I know you.
Yes, you had discussed the side entry, the side entry garage aspect. Is there any particular lots where there would be some difficulty that would prevent you from not having
Sure.
side entry?
And just to explain to the audience, we are wanting to do homes that are side entry homes, so that the garage is not facing the road. It's a higher scale, a more upscale type of home construction, and that's what we would like to do in this community. There may be a few lots, not more than 2 or 3 lots, that have some site constraints due to septic tank design, due to the soils, and on those there may be a front garage, but on the majority of the homes, 90% of the homes at least, will be side entry product.
Is there any soil difficulties that you can
There,
tell
we've
us
done
about?
we've done a phase 2 soil study. There are some areas that will require a higher level of soil study, but also a higher level of septic tank. But all of the lots that we've done on our phase 2 do work with septic tank design. Some of them will have more expensive septic tanks than others, but yes, they all work.
Any additional questions? Okay. Mr. Carmack?
Is there a floodplain nearby these lots?
There's a stream that runs on the northern property, a small branch, but no major flood concerns or floodplain concerns on the property.
Okay. And how many entrances will there be to this subdivision? Just one?
Just one. It's just 29 units,
Okay.
29 homes.
And then lastly, will you be providing any amenities within that subdivision? for the residents?
It'll have an entrance monument. It'll have a HOA that'll maintain the common areas. But as far as amenities, the largeness of the lots will be more the amenity. That typically amenities come into play when you've got a bigger subdivision and the homeowners association can pay for it. It would be very difficult to maintain an amenity with such a small community.
I have one question. I believe the Postal Service are requiring that these units have a postal central location. Where is that in proportion to this property? Can you point it out on this map?
We have not done that yet. I can show you. Typically, when we're doing subdivisions, we try and locate them near the entrance. And when we get into final engineering design is where we'll show that location.
Okay.
But it's for something like this, you're having we call them CBUs, and it'll be located somewhere near the entrance so people can drive in and get their mail as they go home during the afternoon.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
I have a question for you. Since there's only one entrance in and out of the subdivision for the concern of ambulances being able to get by, what is the minimum width, curb to curb, anywhere in this subdivision of asphalt or lane clearance?
Sure. So Henry County has, first off, so when you go more than 50 units in a community, you've got to have 2 entrances. And that's based on fire safety and health safety and welfare. We're well under that. We do meet all the minimum requirements for Henry County, which is 24 foot, which is a standard subdivision. You really don't want to have, from a planning standpoint, very large roads because then people drive faster. So we are going to build a standard subdivision road like you see all over Henry County. We don't want to make it very wide for people to think that they can drive very fast through to the neighborhood.
I just have one question. Within the neighborhood, will there be any on-street parking allowed?
No, sir. I mean, these lots are a lot larger and the driveways will be longer. Where you see subdivisions that have a lot of on-street parking is when the setback and the lot is really small. These have a setback of 40 feet from the right-of-way plus the additional 12 feet. So you got 52 feet from the road to the front of this house, which is plenty of space for parking in the driveway. So you don't have to worry about on-street parking in this community.
I have one additional question. I may have overlooked it, but now, are we including sidewalks in this?
Yes, sir. There will be sidewalks and street lights in this community.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Any additional questions? Okay. If there's no additional question, we'd like to, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the case. Okay. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name's Brad Tucker. Live at 543 Wynn Road. Pretty much my property borders most of this side of this lot or this area they want to develop. And my concerns are a couple of things. What about all the runoff when they clear all the vegetation? This slopes into my property. I've got all of that runoff. Is there going to be any kind of buffer between, keeping that out of, I've got like a little marshland down in the bottom. I'm concerned about those type things. I don't know what the drainage, I haven't seen any drawings to know exactly what things are going to look like. So I've got the buffering thoughts, all the septic tanks, everything's going to leach, towards my property. I'm on the north side of this. So that is one. And then I built my daughter a house, and if I may, her house sits about right here, and it's literally, this is going to be in her front door. Her driveway runs right down the edge of this and then back out to Wynn Road. Now, when we moved here 20 years ago, it was all agricultural, and you don't know what's going to happen. So I believe when the gentleman bought this property, my son-in-law at that point said, hey, can I buy a little bit of this land just so? He said, absolutely not. Well, we didn't know he was planning on putting a subdivision in here, so, he tried to do something like that just so if anything ever came. So the setbacks on the back, if I read right, or maybe 40 feet from the back property lines, and that's going to put a house 60 feet from her door. Now, we moved out in Henry County. We're out here to get away from this type of thing. We lived in subdivisions, and we kind of wanted to live on land and get out. And now we're talking about street lights. It's going to light everything up. It's just a lot of things that's going to affect just us and my daughter, probably the one that's going to be affected here. I don't think there was anybody else here that had any questions, but those are the things that concern me because it all borders my property. I've got 7 acres and she has 3 acres. So I have questions more than I just want say. I just wanted to see if I could get some questions answered. That's the kind of things I'm concerned about. I mean, I don't know the gentleman. He's been there a year maybe, but he's put up all these no trespassing under surveillance signs, and everything's like, it's like a military camp over there. You can't, it's concerned me. I didn't know what he was doing. Now, okay, so all this has come into play. We know now. So that was the main things that I was concerned about. Is it does slope, and that the little floodplain is the kind of little creek that runs down my property, and then it all goes to the back. So I've got about 1,700 feet from Wynn Road all the way down to the creek, and it all, well, this little spot right here, it just my property runs straight out. There's another little house right in here that they rent. I don't know who owns it, but I don't live right up on the property line. But as I said, I built my daughter's house, and hers is right over there. And if they put those houses there, they're going to be literally right in her front door. And if they take out all the trees, now it's just she's living in somebody's backyard. So that's kind of our thoughts and our concerns.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Hello, I'm Barbara Hoffer. I live at 145 Concord Terrace in McDonough. I've been here a little over 20 years, and I want to support him and agree what he says.
See someone else coming forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Debbie Armstrong. My husband is Steve Jeffries. We live at 306 Mount Bethel Road in Ola. Okay, we have been there. His family has been there for over 100 years. We're on Mount Bethel Road. We already have speeders that go up and down our road. I mean, we're a little cut through between Snapping Shoals and 81. Everybody uses it. They fly down our road. They throw garbage all on our road. This is just getting, if we have more houses with more cars, every house, has at least 2 cars. We have all these, and this is going to come out, I think, right in front of my husband's mother's house. Mm-hmm. We have like 80 acres that we live on, and everything is behind us. And, I mean, we have 2 subdivisions on the road already. I mean, it's getting completely ridiculous that everybody that's been there for a while is wanting to just leave. The growth is crazy. The traffic, the speeding, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, if you lived on this road and you'd had peace and quiet we've been there ourselves for 45 years. 45. Yeah, and his family, we're on the property that his grandmother lived on. But we know so many people in our area that are going to move if it keeps getting built up like it is. I mean, you're chasing families that have been there for 100 years off the land. I mean,
it's not the quiet residential agricultural area anymore, and we just keep allowing more and more subdivisions to come in, and it's changing the whole nature of the area. I don't know what the solution is, but I just hate to see it coming. It's ruining the way of life there for everybody that's been there for a long time.
I mean, families are leaving, and a lot of old families are leaving just to get away and move to the mountains where it's quiet. And, I mean, you're running us out of our area. I don't think it's right. I think if you lived in your area, you wouldn't want another subdivision coming. I mean, it's another.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please vote no.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition of the case?
My name is John Page. I live over off Elliott Road in Garden Gate Estates, which is totally away from where this is being built. But I'm asking the committee as far as what does it take to get a moratorium and stop multiple divisions of large developments in excess of what's acceptable for one family. In other words, permitting one home to be built around town these days should be our limit until we get the infrastructure and the road structure and a wastewater and a stormwater, everything else in line as to what we can afford to build later on. I've got right now, as far as the development that's going to be up on Campground, that when we just replaced the Elliott Road Bridge, we saw water come up to the bottom of the new bridge, which was raised 15 feet. You're going to put in 430 homes in that development, and that all runs down into Walnut Creek, and it increases the floodplain area. You have not done your homework, folks. You're admitting to allow these contractors to come in and do injustice to the rest of the neighbors that live in this town. You need to stop allowing the building. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have 3 minutes left for, please. We have 3 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this case. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, no one's coming forward. We'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Mr. Richard?
Yes, I have a question for the staff, or a request. Could you show us the map that shows the current zonings in this area, especially those that are nearby this tract? And if you could explain to us what these different colors on the map show, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, the gold color with the hash marks is our R2 zoning, and the white color is our RA zoning, and we have a little bit of R1 in the far, right here.
And R1 is 1 acre.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, okay. And then what is the proposed density, for this development again?
It is one dwelling unit per acre net, which complies with our future land use map.
Anything else, Mr. Richard? Mr. Carmichael?
Mr. Palmer, can you address Mr. Tucker's concern regarding
Sure.
the buffering issue and the drainage issue?
Sure. And the good thing about Henry County is I actually used to work for Henry County 20 years ago, and we've come a long way on our development standards, thankfully, for the residents of Henry County. And Henry County has a great ordinance that requires you to make sure you take care of all the stormwater and to clean it before it leaves the site. So all stormwater that leaves this site will be less than the amount of stormwater that was leaving it before it was developed. We'll have to put in a detention pond and a water quality feature that will clean the water as it goes into the stream network. So I do appreciate Mr. Tucker's concern. It's a valid concern. It's a great concern to have as a resident. And but I do want to make sure I clarify, the water leaving this site will be less than it is leaving today, because we'll have to maintain it and put it in detention ponds and clean the water before it gets off. The property is wooded right now, and the plan is to just clear the house, clear the lot, clear the property, just to put the houses in. We're not clear cutting this property. We don't want to. You can sell a community like this with large lots for more money if you save the trees that are in it. And also, we're going to be sodding everything, landscaping everything that is disturbed. We're not going to just throw seed out and let it grow. It's going to be sodded yards with landscaping and keeping the trees as we can. So it's, again, I just want to let everybody know it's going to be a very high quality development. It's not going to be a starter home community or anything like that. It's going to be a great place for families in this community. So, and Mr. Bowen, I just want to reiterate, has been living there for about 10 years off of off of Mount Bethel, excuse me.
We'll come back to you, Mr. Richard. Anything else, Mr. Carmichael? Mr. Moore?
Mr. Carmichael hit on my first question. My second question was a concern that Mr. Tucker had brought up about just the visual and noise impact that the lots closest to his daughter's property is going to be. You had mentioned about leaving the tree buffer there. Are there other efforts that you guys can take or be willing to take to add more of a buffer for sight and sound between the properties?
Sure. Look, if we can go back to that color rendering, I did want to show something on the map. And this is conceptual, but where Mr. Tucker's daughter's home, there's the houses, there's a road that goes through there, so there won't be a house right behind it. So this road here, there's not going to be a house through this section. This section is just going to be a road and then the trees between the road and the property. The houses will be here and then over here. So through here, this section is just a road, which should help out with that. But again, I keep going back to, these are larger lots. I mean, these are not small, the lots that you see. These are big lots like you see out in Ola already with buffers and things like that. So.
Do you have a question, Mr. Brown? Okay, Mr. Richard?
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. All right. Oh, did I hear you to say a couple of these lots are 2-acre lots?
That's correct. So this lot here is over 2 acres. This is where Mr. Bowen's house is, and he's lived there for about 10 years. And he's going to remain there in that home with his garage and those things. So it has to be a larger lot. He already has a swimming pool, so it's going to be a larger lot. This lot here, backing up to the stream, is over 1.5 acres in size as well. But as we stated earlier, our net density is 1 unit per acre, which falls in line with the county's ordinances, the land use plan, everything that we're told to use for development. We fall in line and meet those requirements.
Okay. All right, Mr. Richard.
Could you explain what these dotted lines are on either side of the stream banks that are
Sure.
shown on your map? Just to kind of explain what that is.
Now you're referring to these dotted lines here?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Sure. So those dotted lines are stream buffers. Another thing that Henry County has done and been proactive is Henry County has the state minimum is a 25-foot state stream buffer. Henry County has a 50-foot stream buffer, and that's what one of those lines is. There's an additional line that is a 75-foot impervious surface buffer, which means you can't build anything within it. So Henry County's done a great job of protecting the drinking water, protecting the streams, which will also, you can't clear it, so it'll stay a buffer as well.
Any additional questions? Okay. If no further questions for the applicant, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay. If no further questions, you may call the case.
RZ 1907, Robert Bowen of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single-Family Residence for property located at 469 Mount Bethel Road in land lots 108 and 117 of the 8th District. The property consists of 31.0 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision in District 3, and the report was presented by Mr. Richardson, Planner 1.
Okay. You've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, sir, I have a motion. I make a motion to approve the request to R2 zoning with all the staff conditions and with the following additions: that there would be a 2,400 square feet heated space for all houses. There will be side entry garages with the possible exception of 10% of the lots due to topographic reasons. All disturbed areas shall be planted with sodded grass. The net density will be 1.0 homes per acre and 29 lots.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Carmichael. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, call the next case, please.
RZ 19-09, H. Carol Keller and Paxton and Carol Keller of Hampton, Georgia, request rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R3 Single Family Residential for property located at 540 Southampton Road, an undeveloped property immediately to the west in land lots 147 of the 3rd District. The property consists of a total of 43.23 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single family residential subdivision. It's brought to us by the City of Hampton and presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisell, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
Board members. The case before you tonight is located on Southampton Road, as illustrated in your exhibit books and also on the overhead. The property in question is outlined in green. It's located in the vicinity of 2 existing subdivisions, both within the City of Hampton. The subdivision to the north is Cobblestone Ridge, and the subdivision to the south is the Southampton subdivision. The official zoning map shows the city limits in green. So you can see the relation of the subject property. It closes the gap between 2 portions of the City of Hampton. It's kind of curious to me, but there is a bit of commercial property right adjacent, but it's developed with a single-family home. So the character of the area is residential in nature. The future land use map has a designation indicated in green. That sage green color means rural residential with a net density of up to 1 dwelling unit per acre. The survey shows the subject property. There are 2 parcels. There's a parcel that's developed with a single-family home. There's a larger parcel that's largely undeveloped but has a manufactured home. The proposed development of the subject property is for up to 91 lots, and the minimum lot size would be 12,000 square feet. And this requires a rezoning from RA, residential agricultural, to R3 within the City of Hampton, which would allow for lots of a minimum of 12,000 square feet. There is an associated request to change the future land use map to support this rezoning that will be heard further along in our agenda tonight. And then there's also an associated request to annex the property into the City of Hampton, which would be heard by the City Council at a later date, which is not the subject of tonight's hearing. Staff has taken a look at the character of the area. We've taken a look at the subdivisions in the vicinity. We have taken a look at the fact that there has been a rezoning approved for a planned development in the county immediately across from Southampton. And in this vicinity, the pod within that planned development would be a single-family residential pod, actually with lots as small as 10,890 square feet. So this request is not out of character with what has been developed and proposed to be developed in this area. So we do recommend approval of the applicant's request with the conditions that are located in the staff report and your exhibit books, and I'd be very pleased to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? Excuse me. Let's start over here. Mr. Moore.
Let me get my thoughts together on that.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Mr. Carmichael.
Okay, I guess my question, I don't understand, Stacy. we are approaching this thing, this situation a little backwards, that we should first consider the request to change the land use map before you consider the request for the rezoning?
That does make sense, yes. And as an aside, this board is being asked to make a recommendation to the city council, and that city council meeting will be heard at a later date, and the property will be advertised for that later date. I do understand that it would make sense to make a recommendation on the policy guide before considering the rezoning request. These two should go hand in hand, and one, because of the hearing setup that we have, has to come before the other. And in retrospect, perhaps it would make more sense to hear the policy first. The difference between your policy guide, which is the future land use map, and the zoning request is that the future land use map is a guideline, whereas if the city council annexes the property and changes the zoning, that will become the law within the city of Hampton, and it will be required to develop under those guidelines as the law. Our future land use map will remain a policy guide, in this case within the city of Hampton.
Mr. Richard.
I think I had the same question as Mr. Carmichael, but speaking of the property itself, there's a sharp curve on Southampton Road, and my question is, from a safety standpoint, if there's enough room for a decel lane and adequate sight distance, and if that has been checked out by our DOT department.
As far as whether or not there is enough room, I have not had that conversation with our representative at the Henry County Department of Transportation. It is my understanding that this is a county road and that this will remain a county road. And it's my further understanding that the access to this county road will require the input of the Henry County Department of Transportation. So it's my full expectation that the county will be at the table and will be able to give input into the location of this access point. We have standards as far as minimum sight distance and intersection distance requirements and so forth. The city of Hampton itself has a requirement of a boulevard entrance, and it appears, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Risher, that this location of the subject property is on the outside of the curve, and so that may allow a greater sight distance than the other side of the road, which is not our subject property.
Okay, let's finish this side. Go ahead, Mr. Farmer. Now, the resident, the developer wants to be annexed in the city of Hampton, correct?
Yes, sir.
One question I have is, does the city of Hampton have their own zoning department?
Our Henry County Planning and Zoning Department, according to our service delivery strategy, is also the Planning and Zoning Department for the city of Hampton. So the short answer is no.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
In the previous case, we talked about the number of entrances into a subdivision, and if the development was more than 50 units, it was required for 2.
Yes, sir.
This map here, if I'm reading it correctly, shows 1. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, sir. Okay, so the city of Hampton's subdivision code is a bit different than the county's. The county's Unified Land Development Code does indeed require 2 entrances if the development is to have over 50 lots. In the city of Hampton, it's 75. So if a proposed development exceeds 75 lots, which this one does, they're proposing 91, they're required to have 2 entrances. And if I could direct your attention to the site plan that's on the overhead and also in your exhibit books, the one entrance point that you're describing is off of Southampton Road in this vicinity here. They're showing what amounts to a stub out to the west, which is located here. Because our planning and zoning department does not implement the subdivision code within the city of Hampton, I'm not able to say with certainty how the city would handle this scenario. Perhaps they would allow for this subdivision to develop with up to 75 lots and no more until the stub out is able to connect to a public road, which I believe is Floyd Road within the city, or because there is a caveat within the subdivision code of the city of Hampton, it says that a second entrance is required if there's feasible access onto a second public street. The city may have a finding that the access to Floyd Road is not feasible at this time because there are approximately 200 acres in between. So I don't know how to answer your question with certainty.
Okay. You had said that that this isn't potentially going to be absorbed and annexed by the city of Hampton.
Yes, sir.
May I politely ask, how do you come to that?
Yes,
What's
sir.
your source of information for that?
Yes, sir. So the county was notified, as is required by state law, that the city had received 2 applications for annexation. The 2 annexation applications were for each of the existing parcels. One that's owned by Ms. Keller and one that's owned by Mr. and Ms. Keller. And so that's a completely separate consideration from what is before us tonight. But associated with that is, or are, the rezoning application requests and the comp plan amendment requests. So they all go together, but they may go at different times. They're not required to be heard on the same night. But until this property is annexed into the city of Hampton, the city has no jurisdiction as such. But we were notified by the city of Hampton as is required by state law.
Okay, that makes sense. So, since this is county property and it's county purview and jurisdiction, it's here, but is there a potential, I mean, from what you've seen so far in the path that this application of annexation is going through, does it look like it's going to be annexed into the city? The reason I'm asking this is because if we make zoning changes and then they annex it, doesn't that zoning, that whether we leave it or whether it's changed to the new requested zoning, when it gets annexed, doesn't it keep that current zoning as it gets annexed?
So, and I love to make this disclaimer that I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just giving you my understanding as professional staff, that the city, before this property is annexed, has no jurisdiction to make any zoning changes at all. So if the city has a hearing, if the city takes a vote before this property is annexed, that is not effective until that property is annexed.
Okay.
Mr. Brown.
And I may be a little confused about this, the 2 entrances. Since this is not city property, it's still county property, then shouldn't that 2 exits or entrance apply to this?
Again, the short answer is no. The applicant has applied to be annexed into the city for the purpose of developing under the city's development codes. So the entire point is to go under the city of Hampton and to not develop under the county code of ordinances.
So would the city of Hampton have to annex it before we do an approval on it?
No, no. This is before you tonight for a recommendation to the city council.
Okay, Ms. Moore?
Mr. Stacy, we love you to death. We're not here to grill you like bacon, but we're unpacking a box here.
Sure.
If this property is currently under county guidelines and county rules of county jurisdiction, the staff is making recommendation for approval on a property that has one entrance, but it's more than 50 units. If you're saying that we're going to use the city's guidelines, and then you also say the city has no jurisdiction yet because they haven't voted on anything, using the city's guidelines will be inappropriate. We need to use the county's guidelines. Would you see that as do you understand how we're seeing it that way?
I hear that, but I respectfully disagree.
Okay, please tell me why.
So, as was stated before, our planning and zoning department also serves as the planning and zoning department for the city of Hampton. So in this case, we're being asked to take off our county hat and put on our city hat. And I've also stated that our department doesn't implement the subdivision codes for the city, but this train is headed for the city council and not for the Board of Commissioners. And it may be that the city has their hearings and will respect the wisdom of the city. Perhaps they will reject the applications for annexation and subsequently deny the request for rezoning. We don't know what will happen until these hearings are held. But the request is not for development under the county. It's for development under the city's code. The intent is for all of this to come together concurrently, even though, and it's very possible that the hearings for the rezoning and the comp plan amendment will be on the same night as the annexation. If it's not, again, I'm not a lawyer, but it's my understanding that regarding annexations, which is not our subject tonight, if it's brought in under the RA zoning, it has to remain RA for a statutory period of time, and that is not the request.
Okay. Mr. Stacy, I appreciate the description and the explanation, but I can't help but feel that this is still a county issue, and that if we're trying to do things on behalf of the city, before the city's made an official ruling or taken action on it, that we're putting the cart before the horse. I strongly believe we need to let the city make their decisions if they want this to be their property. And if they do move forward with it, then the staff, as y'all always do, professional job, assist the city in getting this either approved or not approved with all the due diligence that y'all do. But I strongly feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. I'm not sure why this is here at this time. It's my opinion. But I do appreciate the fact, y'all cross all your T's, you dot all your I's, you guys are doing your job. I think this particular case is, it needs to go before Hampton before it comes here.
I have a question. Let's go with Mr. Carmack.
Well, Stacy, I agree with him, and that is further buttressed by the fact that in your own report, you say the request to develop an R3 single-family residential subdivision is not consistent with the future land use map. So again, I don't understand how we can consider a request for rezoning before you consider the case Comp Amp 1908H. It would seem to me that we would have to address that situation first before you address the rezoning request. I don't see do we have the legal authority to do that?
You certainly do have the legal authority to do that. It is just a matter of fact that the density that is requested for this subject property is not supported by the future land use map. And everyone knows I'm not a math person, but it's just a fact. But they're requesting to change that future land use map. And more, I'm coming to the conclusion that in this agenda, we should have listed the comprehensive plan amendment first, but all of it is a recommendation, and it's not a legal issue to hear the rezoning request first.
Another question. Well, what is the protocol for changing the land use map?
The protocol for changing the land use map is compliance with the State Zoning Enabling Act, but also the zoning code for the city of Hampton. So we advertise the item, and we happen to have posted the property for the rezoning, even though posting the property just for a comprehensive plan amendment is not required. But we've crossed all those Ts and we've dotted all those Is, and we have written a report for the comprehensive plan amendment that will be presented to you later on tonight. And so we feel like we've followed the process that's due.
Okay, Mr. Richard.
Well, here again, I can appreciate efforts to cooperate with the city. I think that's what we're supposed to do, but the fact remains that this is still in the county jurisdiction, and our R3 zoning has a minimum lot size, I believe it's of 18,000 square
Yes, sir,
feet.
that's correct.
And we're being asked to zone something that's not really in our requirements. It's something that would allow 12,000 square foot lots, and that's quite a variation. And I have to agree with Mr. Carmichael that maybe this should be considered as a land use change first, and then be brought back maybe after the city has annexed it if they want it. So it's somewhat confusing to me.
Well, at this point, we're going to move forward with the case. I'm not going to take any more questions in reference to it, Stacy. So at this point, we'd like the applicant to come forward. Okay. Sir, please state your name and address for the record.
Mark Whitley, 38 East Main Street, Hampton, Georgia. I know there's been quite a bit of discussion already on this, and I'm not going to be able to add a whole lot more to it because of all the discussion, but I can at least get into the discussion, try to answer some questions that you might have, and do the best I can. I know it's very confusing. I understand that. I did want to say one thing as far as the presentation, that of course the intent is to annex into the city of Hampton, and as the staff has already commented on, there's subdivision to the north and to the south that touch this piece of property that is consistent with the lot size that we're requesting, and also a large parcel in Henry County directly across Southampton Road that I would say also is very consistent with what we're requesting. So I believe we showed that along with the staff's recommendation too, that our request is in line. Again, I know it's very confusing about the annexation issue, what comes first on this, and I'm definitely not a lawyer either, so I don't know if I can clarify that for you too. But I do know that we've been asked to obviously bring it before you guys as a recommending party to the city of Hampton. Henry County, as being the representative for city of Hampton's zoning department, obviously is the reason why we have to come to that first. I don't know if it's a possibility as part of the stipulations that we would agree to that's already been put on this by the staff. Maybe there's a way of stipulating that your recommendation is only for the recommendation for the annexation into the city of Hampton. I don't know, but I do know we do have to follow the procedures, which comes to you guys first as a recommending party to the city of Hampton's council.
All right. So does the board have questions for the applicant?
Mr. Willie?
Yes, sir.
Good to see you again. Mr. Willie, you just stated that part of proper procedure to come get the recommendation of an advisory board first.
Yes.
May I ask where do you get that particular procedure? What gave you that belief? Where's your source for that? So that I'll know for the future.
I think the source is probably from Henry County, who represents the city for their zoning issues. Is it that was the procedure to come before you guys to request that?
And Mr. Chair, if I could, the city adopted a new zoning ordinance last year, and it is stipulated in the city zoning ordinance.
But we're not dealing with a piece of property that's inside the city of Hampton. So I don't, maybe I'm asking the wrong question, but I don't see how this particular parcel would apply. Because all the other parcel subdivisions that were pointed out, those are within the city of Hampton, are they not?
So these requests are meant to go at the same time, but the annexation question doesn't have to come before this advisory board according to any law. So we don't have it on the agenda. But we do have the two requests that do have to come before this zoning advisory board, which are for rezoning and comp plan.
Mr. Whitley, I have a question for you. The upper side, this curved part here that where you have the, what was the term you used, Mr. Stacy? The stub out? Is that the term you used?
Right, to the west there is a stub out.
Yes, the stub out part. Mr. Whitley, what can you tell me about any plans or developments or what you know about what's gonna connect to that? When is that gonna happen? Is it even slated?
At this time, there's not a whole lot of information on that, other than there is a large piece of property directly to the west that could provide a stub out in a connection to this, and possibly could provide some access from that development, or could provide access possibly all the way over to Floyd Road. But that's obviously not in place yet at this time.
Right.
Any additional questions? Okay. If there's no questions, you may be seated, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of the case. Okay, no one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record.
Pamela Duchenne, 136 Madison Drive, Hampton. So this property that you're looking at building is going to back into my property as the city, and it's county right now. So I want to know what's going to happen is what's the buffer is going to be left between this property and my property. I want to know what kind of retention walls or whatever you're going to put up, because I don't want somebody coming from this property jumping into my backyard. I just want to know what's going to be the plan, because nobody has spoken to me about building right off of my property. Access roads onto Southampton is going to cause major congestion. That's a small two, but they're using as a 2-lane highway right now. To have a new subdivision. Nobody mentioned the new subdivision. Is it Madison, the 10-house one? Is that a county?
I'm not sure.
I believe that's a county subdivision that was cut a road into our subdivision that has a road Kendall. So I don't know how we have a city street in a county subdivision with the same street. I don't know what's happening. It just seems everything is really willy-nilly here. And if this is all county and it hasn't been annexed into the city, I don't understand why we're talking about it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
My name is Carolyn Ingram. I live in Locust Grove, Georgia. And I must admit, this is the most confusing thing that I have ever seen come before your board. I visit this one and several others. I am always in attendance at the county commission, so I'm quite familiar with things that go on. And I find it very puzzling, because I have learned from the annexations that I have spoken against in Locust Grove, that sometimes when they think they're going to annex something in, then somebody changes their mind and they don't. And I know that there's time limits whenever you when you change a zoning ordinance, and there's time limits that have to be put on them. I know that there's a lot of rules that have to be followed. I also know that with the comprehensive land use plan, that was something that a lot of people worked on a lot of hard hours to come up with what was supposed to be a reasonable plan for everyone. And since the time that it was approved and sent to the state and then approved by the board, I've seen time and time and time again that they want to change it. Okay. I'm using my experience with what I've seen in Locust Grove, and I'm going to put it on Hampton. I don't know how they do things in Hampton because I've only been to a couple of their meetings. I do know that what you see up there is something that would not pass in the county. It's way over the amount of lots to put in there. I'm very familiar with that curve because my daughter lives on that road. That has nothing to do with my feelings about this. She lives all the way down across Rocky Creek. But I'm very familiar with that curve. I've been around it many times. The thing is, how can we sit here and change the comprehensive land use plan, change the zoning to something that's illegal in the county, because Hampton is probably going to annex it in. I say this, if Hampton wants to annex the land in so that someone can build something that would not pass in the county, let them annex the land in then and then come back. And if they're not willing to do that, then something's got to be wrong, because I have seen time and again where people, they can't get what they want in the county, so they immediately go to a city if they're in close enough proximity to them so that they can get what they want. And that's one of the things that's destroying the future land use plan and a lot of other things here. That is one of the biggest problems that we have in this county, is because builders come in here and pick and choose, or developers pick and choose where they build something based on where they can get the most lots. They need to learn more about building quality products instead of being greedy and wanting every lot they can possibly get. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brian Duchenne, 136 Madison Drive. That's my wife that speak. This is the first I'm hearing of this. So, two things, I didn't do my homework. I didn't know about it until this evening, so I'm a little unprepared. But some of my concern is that was said, that curve, I travel that road. It's dangerous in the day and at night. And if we cannot have an acceleration or deacceleration road to get into that subdivision, it's a disaster waiting to happen. When I bought my property as a retirement home in Madison, I was told that that area behind you is all watershed. You cannot build on it, because I was asking, I have 1.75 acres, that could I put a shed? Could I do this? And I was told by the city of Hampton, you cannot build a hard structure. So how it is now, we're going to have subdivision bordering my property. When did that change?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I think I'm going to come back up here about every night as far as and talk to you gentlemen. John Page, again, from Elliott Road area. You
address, sir?
Pardon me?
Your address?
I'm from another area, not even near there, but I know that location. Okay. My accreditation, I've owned a trucking company for over 50 years.
For the record,
I want to give you some background, wait a minute, for information.
Sir, will you state your name and address for the record?
John Page, Fanning Lane, McDonough, Georgia.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I've got a certification of accident reconstructionist. Okay? I owned a trucking company for over 50 years and went out on numerous accidents. And like you've got out on 75 all the time, I used to deal with those. You're putting on 91 lots. That's going to average 182 people, 364 cars a day going through that intersection that's limited sight curve. Why can you allow yourselves to allow accidents to happen and people to get killed? Because they want to put up 91 lots. You people are foolish individuals. Stop and look at what you're allowing to be built. It's a monstrosity of misjudgment as far as by the rest of the people of this town that you're allowed to be up here to make those decisions. If you can't make an honest decision on how to be safe in your own town, get off the board. Do something, go to your coffee shop. Do something else than sit up there and make a decision that's going to endanger anybody else in this town because you want to allow 91 homes.
Okay, sir. At this point, I'm going to ask that you not speak anymore about this board. Yes, we have 2 minutes left for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this case.
Also in regards to the safety and the matter of that street, because it's being so narrow and the curve, there's no sidewalks. The county's never put any sidewalks between Southampton subdivision and to Cobblestone. So if this gets annexed in, because the city tells us that that's county road, and we put another subdivision with 91 homes in it. Right now, people have to be walking on the street when they want to walk up and go to 20 and go to City Hall. If the kids have to ride their bike up that, you know what I'm saying, for the safety, because the county hasn't put any sidewalks. So I'm just saying as a safety issue.
Okay. We have 1 minute left for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Yes, I'd like to take that last minute. Barbara Hoffert, 145 Concord Terrace, McDonough, Georgia. I feel like it's going to add to the congestion on 20, definitely. Litter, I live in a development like that. You had better like your neighbors. Crime is up in Henry County. I looked it up before I came here. We are over the national average. Littering, have you seen the signs? Littering equals bad karma that our people are putting up? Yes, unfortunately, the street around my neighborhood is full of litter. Very, very disappointing to drive through that. And I do even avoid 20 to go to the water company. That's where I got this book. That's where it has the bad karma. And I'm seeing it on the street signs too. So please keep that in consideration too of our town, our county.
Okay. We have 22 seconds left. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? I don't think. Okay. At this time, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? If not, you may be seated, sir, and call the case, please.
RZ 19-09H, Carol Keller, and Paxton and Carol Keller of Hampton, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R3 Single Family Residential for property located at 540 Southampton Road and undeveloped property immediately to the west in land lot 147 of the 3rd District. The property consists of a total of 43.23 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision. This is for the city of Hampton, presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisell, Chief Planner.
Okay. You've heard the case. Do we have a motion? Yeah.
In the case of RZ 19-09H, I make a motion that we deny the request.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second by Mr. Risher. All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Call the next case, please.
RZ 19-12, Sealy Ventures LLC of Brooks, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R-2S Single Family Residential for the property located at 646 North Ola Road in Land Lot 113 of the 8th District. The property consists of 75.65 plus or minus acres, and the request is for single-family subdivision on sewer. This is in District 3, presented by Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair and board members. This rezoning request is for a property located at 646 North Ola Road. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA to R2 on sewer with a development of 95 single-family lots. The subject property does have access to sewer. The proposed development is in compliance with our comprehensive plan and future land use map. The future land use map designation is low density residential with up to 2 dwelling units per acre net. The proposed development will have a net density of 1.75 dwelling units per acre net. Staff recommends approval with 9 conditions seen above the overhead. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, I have one question. The area that's on your map that's in the middle, is that a lake or a wetland area? Is that why it's shaded?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a lake on the property.
And and about how far away is the nearest sewer line that would be extended to serve this this future development? Or I guess to ask in another way, has the Water and Sewer Authority, have they reviewed this request? And
Yes, there is sewer. There is a piece of property that the Water Authority owns that backs up to this property.
And Mr. Richard, the property immediately to the north has recently been rezoned, and so it's likely that the sewer line will be extended from the property to the north.
okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Anything else, Mr. Richard? Okay, if not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Holly Seeley. I'm with Brian Seeley, address 301 Friendship Church Road, Brooks, Georgia.
Okay. Do you have anything additional you'd like to add to staff comments?
So we are requesting that the property located at 646 North Ola Road, plus the 2 adjoining parcels, it's already been stated, but the total acreage is approximately 75 acres, be rezoned from RA to R2 with sewer. We had a few things that we wanted to highlight as it relates to the proposal and request. As you know, the county's future land use map for this property is consistent with R2. As you also know, R2 allows for up to 2 unit dwellings per acre, and we're proposing 1.75 units per acre. R2 also calls for a minimum of 17 square feet for the homes. We're actually requesting 2,500 square feet for the homes. I think you may have listed 1,700, but the for clarification, it's actually 2,500, which is an additional 800 square feet above the minimum. Our proposal includes brick, stone, stucco, or cement fiberboard, or a combination of those 2 on all sides of the home. The only vinyl would be on soffits, eaves, and fascia. We're also proposing that all the homes would be side entry as feasible. And there would also be a proposal of a 50-foot buffer around the perimeter of the property. That buffer would be undisturbed or enhanced, and it would extend across the entire perimeter of the property, excluding any easements or right-of-way. And finally, the plan includes over 11 acres of open space that would be dedicated to the homeowners association for the use by all in the community. In summary, our proposal and request is consistent with the future land use without any variance, and it's also consistent with the recent zonings in that area.
Mr. Richard.
On your layout of the subdivision that was given to us, I think you are somewhat constrained by a single, entrance until you can attach to a subdivision that will be built next to you at some point in the future. Do you understand the county requirement on its infrastructure improvement code that for the purpose of emergency access, that every subdivision with more than 50 lots shall have at least 2 continuously open points of ingress and egress from the street system? That is, you'll have to have a second entrance or access into the subdivision.
It is our understanding that we would be restricted to 50 homes until that entrance was built.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. I noticed you say you have a density, I think 1.75?
Yes, sir.
How many total homes will you have in there?
Be 95 total.
95?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, and I guess that leads me back to Mr. Richard's question. You said 95 is what you're proposing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and at what point would you include the second entrance?
So the future subdivision that's been developed to the north, our intention is to join streets with that, which will have 2 additional entrances, so we'll have a total of 3 entrances for the 2 neighborhoods.
Okay. And I guess now my question is for staff. Does that meet the requirement of the 2 entrances?
In the report in criteria 6 and 7, it speaks to they will be held to the minimum of 2 entrances at the time that they submit development plan. So when it goes through development review, they will be held to only 50 until they can show the second entrance.
So there would only be allowed one phase of 50 lots until
Yes.
there is that connection with the
Okay.
with the subdivision to the north property line.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
So the subdivision to the north, that's already underway, or it's not? No, it's open land at this point, correct?
It's recently been rezoned. I'm not aware if they've submitted any development plans to begin the subdivision, but I know they have already received the correct zoning they wanted.
And what was it rezoned to? Was it rezoned to a zoning that would allow a subdivision?
Yes, it was rezoned to R2. I'm sorry. It was rezoned to R2. They have a minimum 2,200, 22,000 lot size. It's basically the same as what they are proposing. This applicant is proposing.
Is shared entrances still considered to meet the letter of the law when it says they have to have 2 entrances?
Yes.
A shared entrance,
It just has to have 2 entrances. So if you can get to the phase 2 from 2 ways, then yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions?
This is for staff, and I may have missed this. I noticed it said vinyl and soffits. I thought the county had did away with vinyl and the soffits.
To my knowledge, we have not.
Okay. Any additional questions? Mr. Richard?
Now, the subdivision that will be built that's on the northern property line, that was zoned R2, and that was with a public sewer system also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any additional questions for the applicant? If not, you may be seated, sir. Okay. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case.
Hello again, Barbara Hoffert, 145 Concord Terrace, McDonough, Georgia. I love this county. I wanted to retire here. I'm not so sure I want to anymore. I could cry. Okay, I already touched on crime. Before I came, I looked up the real estate, what's going on in Henry County. There's well over 2,000. I only looked up a few sites. Homes already for sale. I don't know what's going on there. Beautiful. Look at Henry Times. That's all over the county to see what people really think. And hey, Henry. This magazine's also in all the businesses, at the hospital, at the water company. It's free. These are all free publications. Beautiful write-up of a farm. Beautiful. Raised 8 kids, put them to college here, Henry County. Beautiful farmland, residential agriculture. Guess what? It's gone because of you guys. It says right here in this article, several pages. Please leave something when you're considering this city. Don't make it Gwinnett. Please don't. People love it here. We want to stay here. And, if you live here, you know what I'm talking about. We believe in growth, controlled growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Deborah Davis. I live at 498 Harper Road. North Ola is behind us, and I'm in a different area. However, it's the same thing going on all over the county, and it's going to be affecting me because we have several things that are coming up for rezoning in our area. And what they just stated was another development has come in and gotten R2 rating from an RA. So it's a domino effect because they're feeding off of what has already been given to R2 to better themselves to get another access because they only have one access right now. So with that other one that just got the rezoning, they're going to have their second access. And that's going to allow all these others that are up with just one access to figure it out, and it's a domino, and this whole county is going to end up being R2, R3, and R4, or even more. And you've got homeowners that have been here for many, many years. We're not opposed to building in this county, but we just want it to be built out at a considerably amount different than what is being proposed. You can only cram so many people into one area. Have you ever driven down Highway 81 from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock? Try doing that and see if you can turn left anywhere. The traffic down there can't handle what's going on North Ola. And I'm just here tonight to prepare myself for my area. And I implore you to listen to the people who are asking you to think hard and long on what you're doing. Because this is a domino, and the dominoes have started to fall.
Okay. Good evening.
I'm Lisa Woodall, and I live at 685 North Ola Road, which is directly across from this development. The home place there now was my great-grandparents who moved here in 1905, so a majority of our relatives still live directly on this property or adjacent to the property. We knew when the lady bought the property, she told us that she would probably only put a house or two back there. So imagine when we saw this development of 95 houses that's going to be directly across from us. I know we can't stop progress, but we have people coming into the county who don't live here who are putting these houses in such
huge amounts on small tracts of land. If you could possibly increase the land size to more than an acre, or they have said they're going to do 2,500 square feet, but even more than that would be great. If we could have something along the lines of like the farm or Holly Hills, that would be great. But 95 houses is just too many for the area. We already can't get out of our driveways. And like she said, Highway 81 is a disaster at all times. So I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
John Page, Fanning Lane, McDonough, Georgia. Would like to ask, as far as Sealy Ventures, as far as where they live, as far as this is listed as Brooks, Georgia, are they residents of McDonough, Georgia? No. So they don't care about McDonough, Georgia. They don't care about Henry County. All they're interested is to line their pockets for the future that they could sell those homes. When are you going to realize, as far as people come into this area or acquire property, and as far as use it for the benefit of their own action instead of the benefit of the county itself? As far as some of your deeds need to be reckoned with. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 4 minutes left. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? No one's coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Okay. Any additional questions for staff? If not, we may call the case. RZ 1912, Sealy Ventures LLC of Brooks, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to R2S, Single Family Residence, for property located at 646 North Ola Road in land lot 113 of the 8th District. The property consists of 75.65 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision on sewer in District 3, and the report was presented by Mr. Richardson, Planner 1. Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I have a motion. I make a motion to approve the request for R2S, which is on public sewer, to include all the 9 staff conditions in the planning report. Also to include a minimum heated floor area per home of 2,500 square feet. There shall be only 50 lots developed and platted upon completion of the street system to accommodate only 50 lots as required by the ULDC specific access requirements section. The balance of the property that will not be developed in the initial phase beyond the 50 lots, that is, the balance of the property shall remain as undisturbed green space to be maintained in a neat and orderly manner. It shall remain as green space until a connection of the second street access is available through the adjoining subdivision directly next to the north property line. And there shall be the 50-foot undisturbed buffer at the rear of all lots.
We have a second. A second. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Okay. Have all opposed? We have a tie, which brings it back to the chair. A vote in favor. Motion carries. Call the next case, please.
Comprehensive Plan Amendment, COMPAM 1908H, Carol Keller and Paxton and Carol Keller of Hampton, Georgia, request an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at 540 Southampton Road and undeveloped property immediately to the west in land lot 147 of the 3rd District. The property consists of 43.23 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from rural residential to medium density residential. This request is for the City of Hampton and is presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
Good evening, Chair and board members.
Good evening.
The applicant is requesting to amend the future land use map designation from rural residential to medium density residential to support a concurrent rezoning request for the City of Hampton R3 single family residential zoning district for the property located at 540 Southampton Road and adjacent undeveloped property. The applicants have also submitted a concurrent annexation request to annex the subject property into the City of Hampton, hence why the applicant is requesting a rezoning to a City of Hampton zoning district. The future communities map, as seen as on the overhead screen, serves as a general illustration of development as well as a policy guide to ensure compatible and unified development within specified areas of the county as a whole. It shows the subject property as being within a rural character area, which is signified by the arrow. It's a green area, which is described within the comprehensive plan as areas that are planned not to be developed or to not have sewer services. However, the subject property does have access to sewer. So, the area surrounding the subject property within Henry County consists predominantly of rural, low-density residential developments, which you can see are the areas in white, and the R1 subdivision, which are 1 acre minimum lots. However, the area surrounding subject property within the city limits of Hampton is a mixture of low to medium density residential developments to the northwest and southeast. So these two. Additionally, there is a planned development area, which is the pink-purple area on the map, which is comprised of both R2 and R3 residential pods. The minimum lot sizes for the PD is 10,890 or a quarter acre and 12,000 square feet lots. This is consistent with the applicant's request, the comprehensive plan amendment, and the concurrent rezoning request as well. So staff has evaluated that due to these 10,890 square foot lots that are present here and the 12,000 square foot lots in this subdivision, both City of Hampton, this development would serve as a good transition from the smaller to the slightly larger lots. So the policies outlined in the comprehensive plan are intended to ensure that new developments promote a better sense of place and preserve values elements of the community's character. Staff has deemed that a request to amend the future land use map designation for the property seems reasonable based on the current zoning trends of the area within the city of limits of Hampton and the applicant's intend to annex into the City of Hampton. With that being said, staff recommends approval of the request, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? No questions over here?
I have the same question.
Okay.
How can we be asked to make or decide an action that you say will not be valid?
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't think that it's correct to characterize it as not valid. Now, it's very true that it is not effective until the property is annexed, But this is the process that is set out in the City of Hampton's code, and so we must follow that process.
Stacy, with all due respect, your own report says that while the request to annex the property into the City of Hampton remains unresolved, any rezoning or FLUM designation for the property will not be valid.
If I may explain, because I wrote the report, what I meant by that is exactly what Stacy explained, that any property potentially could rezone or request a rezoning to a city rezoning, but it won't take effect until it's annexed. So if the property is never annexed, it will remain RA.
Any additional questions? No. Okay. If not, we'd like to call the applicant forward. In this case, applicant left. Okay. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. Okay. If not, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Pamela Duchesne, 136 Madison Drive in the Southampton community. Once again, my same argument. Why are we speaking about this if it's not been annexed in? It's right now county, and we're talking about making it city. Once again, this is going to border onto my property. I want to know what are the buffer areas going to be left in this property, what are going to be some sort of retention walls or whatever to separate that from my property, because I have a pool and I don't want people coming in, jumping in my yard and accessing it. As my husband stated before, when we bought, we were told that nothing could be built on this land as it's wetlands. Now, this is going to be built there. Third, the traffic on Southampton Road is going to be crazy. It's a small road with that bend. I mean, there's no sidewalks on that road. The county has never put any sidewalks for safety reasons. I don't know, putting another subdivision with 91 homes, children riding up, walking up and down in the dark. It's not well lit on the road. To me, this is a disaster waiting to happen. I feel if we've already rejected the one, why are we going to consider it again? Thank you.
Okay. We have additional time for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Carolyn Ingram. I live at 125 Price Drive West in Locust Grove, Georgia. Again, and I will speak only on my opinion as far as the future land use management plan is concerned. Why are we trying to change something under the assumption that it's going to go into Hampton? When you came in here tonight, you didn't know how you were going to vote positively on anything. So therefore, when you have a body of people who are going to vote based on what they learn in a meeting, what if Hampton decides they don't want it? And we have already changed the future land use management plan in the county. Leave it alone. If it becomes Hampton, then they can apply to change it. In the meantime, leave something alone that is supposed to work, because there was a lot of work put into that. So why are we now just chipping away at it? It's a good plan. Leave it alone.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Sorry, I just wanted to say one other thing. So the Southampton community was initially a county and got annexed in to the city of Hampton. So when it was created under the county, it had one entrance for a subdivision with 144 homes. I guess after it got annexed, that piece of land, that piece of road got cut. Now, our street Kendall, which is in our subdivision, is now going into this new subdivision that's being built which is county, and has the same street name. I don't understand how this street name could be in a county subdivision and then in a city subdivision, but these are the kind of things that after something is annexed in, when it's county and then gets annexed, is all screwed up. So this whole new subdivision has access into our subdivision, but that's a county subdivision and we're a city because we got it annexed in. And we share a same road, so I don't understand that. Things are a mess.
Thank you. Okay, we have 8 minutes left for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, if not, does the board have additional questions for staff or the applicant?
Would a comment be appropriate, Mr. Chairman?
No, I don't think so. Let's go with the question. Okay, we can do it. Let's go with the question. Okay. Any additional questions? If not, call the case, please.
COMP AM 1908H, Carol Keller and Paxton and Carol Keller of Hampton, Georgia, request an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at 540 Southampton Road and undeveloped property immediately to the west in land lot 147 of the 3rd District. The property consists of 43.23 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from rural residential to medium density residential. This request is for the city of Hampton, and it was presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion that Comp AM 19-08H, I make a motion that is denied.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Okay.
I'd like for the general public that has expressed an interest in understanding it, that it, as you say, it's a mess, it's unclear. This is my opinion. This is my just perception of how this works. People come to the county or they come to a city and they make a request. There's a legal path and a legal procedure to do that. These fine folks that sit over here, even though sometimes we might disagree with them in a vote, I have the highest respect for them because what they're doing, what this whole procedure is trying to give these folks good customer service at a counter. No different than when we go to pay for our tag. People come to our county and they expect professional service. They ask a question. And instead of having one person just dictate whether they like them or not, or they don't want to or not, instead of giving one person singular power to deny, which might invoke some kind of prejudice or basically I'll leave it at that. But there's a process in place. And I want folks to understand that's what this whole meeting is about. Folks have approached the county and said, I'd like to do such and such. There's a procedure where they try to find out, well, is that legal? Is it proper? Would it fit? Would it benefit? And they make a recommendation based on what's in the books. They do their very best not to put their personal opinion in it. So I don't want folks to think that there's this conspiracy to build the county like crazy. That's not their job. They're not building anything. They don't have a hammer. They don't have a saw. What they're doing is trying to give someone a proper and ethical answer to their question, but because it affects all of us here in the county, we make it a public proceeding, and that's what this is for. I understand the animosity. I understand the anger. I feel it sometimes myself, but we try to separate ourselves and look at it and give people a legal and fair answer, and this board gives a recommendation, not a final determination. We don't pass out the permits. We're just giving the cities and the county a group of hopefully unbiased opinions to say we're a sampling of the public and we're giving you our recommendation to move forward or not. And that's what it's about. So don't feel like we're up here building stuff in spite of you or denying your request in spite of you. That's not the process and that's not the purpose. So I appreciate you giving me a second to explain that. That's what we're here for. So when people bring us things, we trust that they're going to look under every rock and they're going to cross every T and dot every I and give us enough factual information to where we can listen to them based on the facts and then listen to the heartbeat of the people and try to make an educated decision. It's hard, folks. It's not easy. Thank you. I just wanted to say that, so thank you for your time.
All right, well, we have a motion, we have a second, and discussion. All in favor?
This is to deny.
All right, all in favor of the motion? Motion carries. All right. I believe that concludes our cases for tonight. Motion to adjourn?
Motion. I second.
And a second? So be it. Meeting is adjourned.